Morning, everybody. So welcome to Agency Uncut. We're on episode 8 today. I'm Paula Davies, and I'm joined with my colleagues Karl Ormerod and 𝗥𝗲𝗄𝘁. Now, the focus of today's episode, we're looking at the statistics that have been released recently in terms of the premium market, and we want to talk about how those statistics, how we're finding those in everyday property life. But first, I want to talk about something that's happened to me a couple of days ago. A little bit frustrating. I wanted to throw it over to you guys just to see, have you got similar experiences? How has it been with you? So this is a property that has been on with another agent. It's been on for 6 months. Now, in that 6 months, it's had 5, I think maybe 6 reductions. Wow. So it's really clear that this seller wants to sell this property. It's a probate, so it has to sell. The property has to go. After 6 months, she's had enough. She has given the agent notice and she's signed with me. So it came off with the agent Friday and it's come on with me as of Monday. So I'm just going through the preparations now to get this property ready to market. And she's had a call yesterday to say, we may be getting an offer for you from the high street agent.
That old chestnut.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find it frustrating because I think, you know what, she's clearly been neglected for 6 months. I think most of those price reductions, it's been her chasing the agent. I think the first thing she said to me when it was initially priced is that she actually said to the agent, is that not too high? We can go in lower. Nobody listened to her. And they still listed it at the price that they discussed at the market appraisal. So she's clearly keen to sell. And it just feels like the agent has received the notice, probably naffed off with that, and as opposed to it now being within the volume and being lost with the maybe 100 plus properties that they're marketing, it's now been brought to the top of the pile after 6 months, just as I've started work.
This is just typical volume estate agency, isn't it? Because I mean, I don't know anything much about this one, but I'm guessing it's probably a high street agent that's got a presence in that area with a lot of property. It's probably been forgotten. They're probably thinking, oh, it's too much money or too much hassle. They're focusing on the new ones. I think I've used this expression before, and I'm sure I'll use it again. What I call 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝘆 estate agency. You get an agent, it brings on 50 in a month, 25 sell, 25 fall off. That's probably one of those 25. It's been forgotten about. And the minute it's brought to the forefront that the client is unhappy and wishes to move, they suddenly have an internal meltdown and think, oh no, we spent money on marketing costs and we don't want to lose that board because another agent's board going up is embarrassing, etc., etc. But it just shouldn't work that way. I mean, look, we can sit here for hours and complain about it, but unfortunately, that's just one of the pitfalls of going with a volume agent, which is why we as a brand and an industry of self-employed agents are so successful, because it's quantity over quality. Sorry, wrong way around. Quality over quantity. So I think that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, look, great. I always say to owners when I go out and they say, I've got to give 4 weeks notice. I said, well, what's the worst thing can happen? They can pull the finger out and sell it. And I would probably say that 1 in 10 do. The agent goes, right, we got 4 weeks to sell it. They hammer the staff and put this in the forefront, blah, blah, blah. You might see a new Instagram post, or they might change some photos on the portals and suddenly they get some viewings. But yeah, frustrating and very annoying for the owners.
Yeah, I think it's. I've seen it firsthand a few times, and I've got more than enough examples of the same sort of thing, Paula. To be honest, I mean, I've had 2 recently, which have been the exact same. One of them, 28. Both of them are 28 days notice. I think I mentioned last time we caught up, and it was 28 days. And I said, well, hopefully they pull the finger out and you get a sale, because ultimately that's the end goal, isn't it? I mean, obviously it's good for me if I get the property and sell it, but at the same time, we just want what's best for the clients, and that's one of the biggest differences. Is it's not just another number to us; it's another client, it's another customer, it's another person. And I've had one recently that has literally been on the market since January. No sale, no offers or anything like that. Very limited viewings. The seller gave 28 days notice, and they had 13 viewings within those 28 days. And 2 offers come in, but the offers were nowhere near the asking price. And then the agent was basically saying, obviously we priced it at the higher end of the market, so what the seller believed they were doing is just putting people in there who potentially couldn't really afford it. It was just a case of, this seller might take a bit less. Do you want to go along and have a little look? But they might not even be able to afford it. they took it off. It went live with me a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And I've got 3 offers over asking the same asking price that they put it on at. So I think, again, it's just speed of getting to those people who are interested and being close to the house, because I've seen it firsthand from high street estate agency in the past, where a property, like you mentioned, Karl, gets a bit old, gets a bit stuck, and the lister is just bringing in fresh stock. And it's a case of, right, we need to meet expectations with this new property. And they completely forget about this other one. Whereas I know that we have regular seller review meetings every sort of 2 weeks, a week or something like that, or even more often, to be honest, where we stay really close to the sellers and, do you know what's happening? Well, this is happening in the market. We've not got viewings booked in yet, but it's because of this, blah, blah, blah. And it's just regular updates. Communication is the biggest thing. 100% is the biggest thing. And that was obviously lacking there until they get told they need to pull a finger out or they're going to lose the opportunity.
I met with a couple of mine yesterday that we took a property on in 𝗪𝗏𝘀𝘀 about 4 weeks ago. Been on with a local agent, high street, 6 months, no viewings, dropped the price 100 grand, saw me on Instagram, called me out. It was empty, had to be virtually staged, really quirky property. You just looked at the photos and you just couldn't work it out. And it's typical agent. They've thrown the photos on. One of my frustrations, it doesn't flow, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, garden, garage, hallway, you're like, I want to walk through, pictures should create a walkthrough. And I had somebody the first day it came live view it that viewed a week previous with that agent and even mentioned it to them. They viewed it 3 times, decided it just didn't work for them on a bedroom front. I reached out to another couple that had viewed another property and said, what about this? And well, we saw that one was on the market, but we don't like the way it flows. We had a conversation. I got them there. They've offered. We've agreed to sale. That agent should have had that sale. But because of the poor marketing, no video that was really presented well, no virtual staging to give people the understanding of how they need to, or they want to live and can live. Royston Guest, who's a very big international speaker, always say people need to be led, and that's why we do virtual staging, people to understand how they can live there. We didn't change the price, and we've sold it. And the owner says to me yesterday, why? And we have this conversation. He says, it's so frustrating that we didn't know about you first. And I said, well, that often happens. But my point is that people think it can just be put on Rightmove and that's the job done. It's not. It's not at all. Not at all. Anyway, we're waffling. So,
interesting.
Paula, let's talk about the premium market.
Yeah, so that's the aim of the podcast. We digress there onto talking about properties come off. So we've got the statistics out for the Premium Property Pulse, which is the premium market magazine, which is due to come out, quarterly magazine. I believe it's in print now, and that's going to be coming out soon. So the statistics that come out, correct. So the statistics that come out on that show that actually stock of the premium market is actually at an all-time high. We've got a lot of stock out there. Buyers have a lot of choice. Do you guys see that in terms of what you're taking on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I send out my monthly stats to my owner with a Rightmove report, but obviously I download, because now we're on obviously 𝗪𝗏𝘃𝑟𝑒s, which is fantastic. I've already started to see some traction with that. I download their monthly report as well per postcode, which is a lot more dialed down. And interestingly, obviously, because I do a lot in Formby, as you guys know, I did 𝗪37. 𝗪37 is 3% down on prices, but 33% down on transactions and 15% up on stock. You stick that into a calculator and you work it all out. It's kind of like we're almost double where we should be, or we have been, because a lot is taking so much longer to sell. A lot less is selling, and there is more available. So yeah, there is, and I think that highlights the importance of correct pricing, correct marketing, and the right agent. Interesting. I think Chris Watkin put a post on in 2021 in COVID. You can throw it on the internet now. It's a whole new ballpark. And I'm on many Facebook groups. There's a self-employed Facebook group. There's a guy. He's up in the Lake District area. No, he's in Yorkshire. Tell a lie. He's from Lake District originally, but he's in Yorkshire. And he put on last week that 3 local high street estate agents all closed the same week. And you think, well, if there's that volume of stock around, really, they should be in a position where they should be fine, but it's not. It's because they're just not selling any of it. So yeah, you are right.
Interesting.
Sorry.
the statistics show that actually in the first half of the year that the sales have been quite strong as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe we're talking sales in specific areas, specific
Possibly,
price ranges.
Of course.
Yeah. I also think it's probably a case of sales by specific agents as well. You know, that'd be something really important to probably have a little look at, because obviously if there's lots more stock on, lots more properties coming to market in that pricing range. But there will be, because there's people overvaluing and pulling more into that pricing range, which might necessarily not be there. And then what agent is actually selling the ones that are in that pricing range? Because
that's a really valid point. I mean, that when you take a postcode, you're obviously taking everything between £1 and 50 million. So it's not broken down necessarily the 𝗪𝗪 stats into the premium market. But that you're spot on there, Jake, is that me personally, my stats for the first 6 months of the year, I am well up on last year. And I think that a lot to do with that is to do with the more data we've got, the more proactive we've become, the more avenues that eXp Luxury have provided our sellers, and the different things that we're continually doing and evolving, and just, you know, the way that we all do business. But I bet if you, without keep going on high street, because I said before I don't want to make it a high street kicking, but I bet their stock levels are declining while their agents are increasing. So that's where they're seeing the main stock level, the main sales is diminishing. It's because they aren't selling them, as you rightly say.
Yeah, I mean we've got a growth in personal estate agents over the last. We know this already. There's been a huge growth in it, and there's been a huge decline in withdrawals. So we've seen that from this. Obviously, withdrawals are down within this pricing range, and the majority of agents who are listing the higher pricing range are becoming self-employed agents. So it does start to make sense within the numbers as well, doesn't it?
Do you know what? I genuinely, I have a pinch myself moment twice a week, where I say to myself, how can 1,000 and a bit self-employed agents be more successful than the biggest estate agency in the country that has probably similar levels of high street offices with multiple staff, not do the same business that we do? You know, we've got, I think there's some stats out there, we've got one of the lowest 4-3 rates in the industry. We're the quickest from point of sale to exchange and the quickest from exchange to completion. These kind of stats, and it all goes down to the fact that we're self-employed and we are accountable, which they're not. We are accountable. And I still look at it and think, wow, that's just that I still struggle to comprehend that. I really do. If we had 5,000, I would get it, but almost a like for like, one person, one office, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah,
that is mind-blowing.
As figures, as statistics, I absolutely agree. You know, and you sit there and go, how can that be possible? How can we sell the most houses but only hold 2% of the market?
Yeah, exactly.
But then when we've all in our various elements experienced high street, so we know how it operates behind the door, and we're all here generally because we know we can make a difference and we can do things differently to how it was done at the high street. And I think we all are aware that a formula has developed on the high street where you have a lister, whether it be a lister, a manager, a valuer, whatever you want to call them, and they're targeted to take the properties on. And as you've said many times, Karl, you're guaranteed that is the only person who will never speak to you again. And he's actually the only person who has seen your property. So when your property is handed over to office staff who haven't seen your property, they don't have any more tools other than to say, let's reduce. What else can they suggest doing? Because they don't know your home.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that's even worse for sales progressors, because they're dealing with a buyer they've never met, a seller they've never met, a home they don't know anything about it, and they are the one in that office with no training. Let's be honest, they've not gone on a conveyancing course. They're just, I'm a sales progressor. And suddenly they're responsible for getting your sale through. Well, they're not. They're just ringing solicitors and saying, can you give me an update? And then they pass it on to the client, and the client thinks they're progressing it. They have no influence. All they're effectively, I've said this, I mean, we digress now, I've said this for years. If solicitors blank carbon copied in the estate agents, their level of work would drop dramatically, because they wouldn't have to deal with all the inbound calls they're getting from estate agents, which may be 2 on each sale because it's the buyer and seller, and they would just be able to say, there's your blank carbon copy, there's your update, and I will update you as I update everybody. Job done. job done. And that would probably reduce the fall throughs dramatically, because the agent suddenly in real time sees exactly what's going on, thinks I can deal with that.
Yeah, I think the other thing that slows the fall through rates down massively, these withdrawals and stuff as well, is, I mean, touch wood, very, very strongly. I've not had a fall through yet. So well, touch wood. I've said it now, haven't I? But no, I haven't yet. So it's a huge, huge difference. But on the stat side of things as well, I think one thing that really does have an impact on things going through to completion is, it's not about, for us, it's not about a case of just selling quickly. It's a case of selling to the right buyer. Now, a lot of a high street agents, or maybe really large independents, to be honest, it's a case of, oh, we've got a buyer, and they just get it agreed, put it in solicitors' hands, and it falls through in 2 weeks because they weren't quite sure. Whereas for us, it's a case of, don't just sell it right. And if it's the right client, the right buyer, matching up with the right seller, the right intentions, you know, they're looking forward to that lifestyle that they're going to get when they get there, it is much more likely to go through to completion over the first offer that come in, just getting it agreed because you want to put a mark on your sale agreed for the month. You know, for us, if it doesn't go through to completion, it doesn't matter that it was sale agreed. You know, it's more important for us to actually get it through to the end.
Money banked, isn't it? That's the way that we work. We're not having to tick off, you know, figures that an area manager requires every month on a certain amount of net sales. To us, it only matters when we've exchanged contracts and the money's in the bank. So yeah, totally right. I mean, I've got an apartment that I listed about 10 days ago. I knew the client of old. I sold their house in Victoria Road when I worked elsewhere. They came back to me with the apartment. We've had like 3 offers on it, and all would have been acceptable, and all have just fallen through on it. And they're like, oh, we've lost 3 buyers. I said, we haven't. They're just flaky buyers. One of them is made an offer, but he keeps moaning about the parking. And I've said to the owners, 6 weeks down the line, that parking issue becomes to the forefront, and he'll withdraw, guarantee it. And what's happened? He won't commit to it now. So they're frustrated, but a lot of agents go, yeah, no problem, we'll get that agreed, memorandum of sale out, on to the next one. 3 weeks down the line, he does have that conversation, and then they've lost time. So you're right, it's not about getting a buyer, it's getting the right buyer. Definitely.
So I know we digressed there a little bit into it, but it's a great conversation. But no, so coming back to the, you know, the statistics, if there's record stock out there, what are you feeling from potential buyers, from viewers who are looking at properties or maybe making inquiries? You know, are they more choosy in terms of the properties they're looking at, what their expectations of what the property will be or the presentation will be? How are you finding that?
I think there is a lack of urgency. I think because they don't feel like they need to rush. I think they feel they can look. You know, I've got a client of mine. He's in IT and he's an app designer, and I've kind of been showing him property in Formby for the last sort of month or so, and he's looked at 4 or 5 over 2 million, and he's like, you know, it's a big decision, but because he's not. I mean, I recently sold one last week or 2 weeks ago at 2 million, the only one that's sold in that price range in Formby in the last few months. He's looking at all this stock, thinking, well, it's not selling, so. Do I wait for the prices to come down? Do I just keep waiting until the right property comes along? You know, ticks every single box, which we know is probably impossible. There's no urgency. If a lot of them were selling really quickly, he would be under pressure, but they're not. So the increased stock level creates a situation where people take a lot longer because they don't need to. You know, if you go to a car dealership and you're looking at buying, you know, say we had a conversation about Teslas, Paul, and there's 50 Teslas secondhand, you'd be like, but there's 2 and they sold 30 last week. What would you do?
Yeah, well, it goes back to people want what people want, don't they?
Well, it's like a restaurant, isn't it? I always say, if you go to 2 restaurants and one of them's full of people, another one's empty, which one do you go into?
See, the funny thing on that as well, though, is if you I love that analogy, because if there's one restaurant that's really full here and this restaurant that's obviously a lot quieter, then this comes to estate agency as well. I know an awful lot of people will go with this agent just because there's a lot more people in there. But where do you think you get a better service? In that one, because you're going to be one of the best.
It's quality over quantity. You know, people use old adages, and like boards breed boards, and people do look, oh, they've got a lot of boards, I must go with them, they're the biggest, they've got the most property. But just because they've got the most, that doesn't make them the best. It actually works the other way. I bet it'd be interesting, actually, if you said to 𝗪𝗏, who's Mr. Stato, find out, you know, the agent that's got the most, what their withdrawal and fall through rates are like coming down compared to the agent who's got the least. I bet it'd be interesting. I bet that guy at the bottom that's got 5 or 6 houses sells 5 or 6 houses. I don't know if you've been following, but 𝗪𝗏 doing his top 250 agents for the 6 months. And it's interesting, as I look at it every day. I've got a note on my phone at 3 o'clock because he puts it on it too. And I look at it, and it's interesting. These high street branches, 115th last year, 136th, they're all going down. None of them have gone the other way. When we get to the top two, we know it's going to be us and one other high street, one other self-employed model that we know about. We think, or they'll be very close, but we would have motored ahead, and the gap would have been increased dramatically. But all these high street agents are dropping and dropping and dropping. So it's good to see. It'd be great to print it all off and create a chart, but I haven't got time to do that. But I'm just saying it's showing the way the market's going. Definitely.
It'd be crazy to have a look at the comparison though, wouldn't it, from where it was to like maybe a few years ago, 6 years ago, and then where it will be next.
Chris did that in the January this year about us, because weren't we like 695th or something? I can't remember. And then we're number one. And then you've got other agents that were like number one and they're like 25th, something like that. But yeah, it would be. But I'd like to see the gap, you know, or the percentage, whatever. But that's probably difficult to do. But it's good to see that, you know, these high street models aren't evolving. And talking about high street models is interesting. I was talking to a self-employed agent the other day, and he was saying that I'm talking to him at 11 o'clock today, and he was talking to a major, probably one of the top 2 luxury models in the world who've launched a self-employed model. And that says it all. You know, and he said to me, what do you think that is? I said, because they fear us. They fear us. They don't want to change. They're being forced to change. And if they don't get on board, they're going to get left behind.
No, it's very true. But what's interesting, and you're absolutely right with what you said there, is that people's mindset, and let's say previously and still very much today, but what we're trying to do is change it, is the mindset is the more boards there are, the more properties they have on their books, the more people who are in the office. They're the ones to go to because they are clearly the busiest. They are clearly the ones that attract people. But and we've just said that with supply and demand, haven't we? But I think it's for us to educate and to inform the public that that's no longer the case. Actually, the agent who's carrying the most stock, who's got the most properties on there, and who is dealing with the most amount of people is not necessarily going to give you a personal service that when you're selling your most valuable asset, you demand and you should expect and you should receive, and that doesn't happen. So I think that's a huge shift in the public's mindset, and it's for us as self-employed agents to educate people. But we've all been there. We've all got 65 years combined experience, and we're all here now in personal estate agency. That screams something to the public.
I say to people on valuations, without being big-headed, I could probably work in any environment. You know, I've been headhunting on a regular basis, and I'm sure you guys are the same. You know, you could have stayed exactly where you both were, and so could have I. But we chose this model because we feel it's better for our clients. It's that simple. You know, you come out of an employed model where you get a hefty wage, a pension, a car, a phone, whatever, and you take a risk and you put your whole life on the line, and you might make you might not make any money in 6 months, but you do it because you know it's the best thing for your clients. That kind of says it all, really. Not because we're greedy, because we want to do the right thing.
I think when we went to the conference, and it was my initial reaction when I walked into that room and saw 400 or 500 people, all estate agents in one room. Silly analogies. Everybody looked happy. Everybody was dressed in colour. It's probably a female observation, but what I mean is estate agency world, grey suits, you know, shirt and tie, stressed, grey looking, you know, shattered, you know, all of that was not sat in that room. Everybody looked happy. They looked healthy. They were chatting. They were wearing colour, and it just gave you an understanding of the lifestyle that these people are living and the clear enjoyment and self-satisfaction that they're getting out of the job that they're doing, which wasn't evident, or certainly wasn't evident when you're working in high street, because everybody's really busy and stressed and tired and
I think you did say that on the day as well, Paula, when we were at the front, and you said that everyone just seems lit up, don't they? And I think the other thing that I took from it, which was known already, but it was something that I took considering how many people were there, was when everyone was talking about how they're getting on and stuff like that, they were all talking about their clients, not numbers.
There's not that, our office has done that and we're the best in the area. No, you're right. It was all about their clients and how they can do better. And the whole conference in 2 days was about how we can do better. It wasn't about making more money. It wasn't about increasing this and doing that and doing this. It was all about how do we make the journey for the sellers better and to provide a better service and to sell their property. And I think that was interesting. You know, you go to, you know, I worked at an agency many, many years ago, and you go to a conference all about, we'll sell you this and we'll sell you that, and you should be buying this and should be buying that. That's not what that was about. That was about providing the best for your clients. And I like that. I like that a lot.
And I think when you're selling your most valuable asset, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah. I still don't get why people, you know, we can have this conversation another day because we're getting close to run out of time. But you know, you value, you know, people buy a Range Rover, they take it to Hatfields to get it serviced because they're the main dealer. But they've got a house that's worth 3 million. And they put it on with somebody that's charging them nothing and getting a crap service because they think they're saving themselves money.
Yeah, but I say that again, it's the volume thing, isn't it? It's like you can go to McDonald's and pay for peanuts and get a terrible service, and it's absolutely chocker. You know, they've got so many staff and everything. Or you can go for a Michelin star meal somewhere, pay a little bit extra, but you know exactly what you're getting.
And the McFlurry machine never works because
I can never get a milkshake.
No, because it can't.
And it's not that it's not working; they just don't want to clean it out.
No, that's exactly it.
That's right.
Have we got any time left, Karl? Have we got a couple of minutes?
5 minutes.
Right, I tell you what I haven't touched on, because we are still trying to focus on the premium market, but it's great that we digress because it's still everything is a substance that we talk about. But the market gets different when you get over 2 million.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a northwest stat. Over 1 million, you are 0.5% of the market. So I say to owners, that means every 200 inquiries an agent gets, they're only getting one for yours, or over 1 million. And when you get over 2 million, it's 0.2. So that means for every 500 inquiries, they're getting one. You know, you could have 30 listings over 1 million and do minimal viewings because there's not that many people with that much money. So yeah, the process does take a lot longer, and that's why it's so important. You know, this week Chris has done 4 reshoots for me on property that I took on in inclement weather. I paid to go out, he's gone out, he's done some late night stuff, got them back. Owners are chuffed because we've got seasonal images. How many times you still see stuff now with Christmas trees up and frost on the drive?
Or snow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you look at it, you go, old listing. It doesn't matter what the dates say, old listing. So I seasonalize mine, but that's investing in your clients.
Yeah, I think it's refresh as well, though, isn't it? Because obviously the standard agents, they literally have reduction call days where they will call their stock to reduce the stock. Whereas we have seller reviews where we sit down and go, okay, is it the price? No, I don't think it is actually. It's just that it's the higher end of the market. Right. And you're right with all the figures there, Karl, as well, about it is a lot slower. There is a lot less leads coming in. We do a lot more outbound, trying to find the right buyer. And I've got the same thing at the moment. It's got a shoot going along because it's a refresh. People may not have seen it, you know, and it's a case of re-pushing it out there, pushing it in different directions, not just changing the price.
I'm redoing the socials, changing the pictures on Rightmove. You say about those price reductions, cracking one, slight digress as well. Got a chain at the bottom, is a very, very well-known London agent, big London agent, super successful. They're buying other agencies, dead powerful, reputation of being super aggressive. Guys at the bottom of the chain, ring him, start having a chat. What's the XP luxury like? What's it like where you are? We're on the phone for 10, 15 minutes. He actually turned around and said to me, yeah, well, in my office, I got the best best price reductions last month. He was proud of that he was number 1 for price reductions. Just like that.
Motivated by the wrong things.
Say again?
Motivated by the wrong things.
Wow. Yeah.
Listen, I think that's a great time to probably wind this week's episode up. So it's great to chat to you. I know the next episode, we're actually having a mortgage advisor with us. Oh. So we've got an independent mortgage advisor and we're doing it from their offices. So that'll be really interesting. Yeah, so get your questions ready, guys.
Yeah, oh yeah. Get your hard hats on, mortgage advisor.
Good to chat to you all.
Yeah, great. Have a good day. Catch up with you later.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.